welcome to the Soda Fiend. Today we're going to be taking a look at Hansen's Key Lime Twist, naturally flavored, and other natural flavors. Rather painful turn of phrase, which I presume is meant to indicate that there is actual key lime or lime juice in here, in addition to whatever cranberry or apple forms the base. That's just speculation on my part. But that tends to be where a lot of fruit juice comes from. Also, vitamin C flavor can come from rose hips. So, who knows? Not I. Because Hansen's beverages, despite their numerous qualities as a producer of beverages since 1935, as proclaimed here in the United States, California in particular, is now a subsidiary of the Coca-Cola Company. At least the soda brands under the Hansen's and Blue Sky name are, and they kind of tout themselves as quote-unquote healthy sodas, which of course we all know is a steaming pile of something other. And Hansen's is packaged in a manner which I would once maybe have had some second thoughts about questioning as hard as I'm going to. But now that I know they're owned by Coca-Cola, I'm pretty much just going to cut loose. Because, they can take it. First thing, right off, I'm going to complain about this beverage a little bit here, but ultimately this is not going to be a bad review in the end. Just to spoil it a little bit. They've got this grippy surface on the logo of the can, right? And it's only on this ring part of the Hansen's natural logo. This part is particularly grippy. I guess maybe it's only the black in the logo. Anyway, I pick one of these things up, and the first thing I think is, this can is dirty. I need to rinse it off. One of the other cans has exploded or something, and this has gotten some soda on it. So I think you're spending your money on what ultimately doesn't bring you anything worthwhile and can have a perverse effect. Look at this, 150 calories per can. Be proud when you drink a Hansen's beverage from the Coca-Cola Company. You can probably tell from my tone what I think about the idea of touting soda as a health food. It is listed as 150 calories here. And since I have a prop can to spare, it does have a few disclaimers on it and proclaims itself to be gluten, sodium, and caffeine-free, two of which I guess are kind of relevant to mention in a soda. You kind of don't expect a soda to have a lot of gluten in it, although I guess it's theoretically possible that it could. Focus, please. Focus. So, this is carbonated water, cane sugar, citric acid, which, yeah, I kind of wonder if that's coming from rose hips, but also fruit flavors with extracts of lemons and limes, which are usually similar enough to work with when you're dealing with extracts, confections, and flavors. But here's where I want to get into the nitty-gritty of this beverage. Well, let's take one last look here at this remarkably cluttered self-proclamation of state of California, real cane sugar, always free from artificial flavors, sodium, caffeine, and, one thing they don't actually mention here, which is not terribly relevant on this soda in particular, but it is one thing I do like about the Hansen's brand, is they don't use dyes in their sodas. At least in my experience, I believe that's something that they tout. That can create a little cognitive dissonance when you're dealing with a root beer or something you expect to be brown or perhaps orange. But in the case of a lime soda, it's very close to being a lemon lime and creates no cognitive dissonance whatsoever. So let's crack and pour. I'm going to use this one. A swig Fortina. Okay. Well, it actually tastes better than it has for me coming right out of the can in the past. You can see that we're looking at what could be anything with no dye in it. Could be anything from an Alka-Seltzer to a tonic water to a delicious lime soda. Key lime in this case is perhaps not denoting that you can expect this to taste more like a key lime than a lime in real life. It really probably is just differentiating itself from the classic confectioner's lime flavor, which indeed this does differentiate itself from pretty strongly. And the results for me on this are kind of varied. I do want to point out that one thing they're not BSing about at all is that we're looking at 39 grams of sugar here, which is about 8% lower than a typical soda. Take that for what you will. The flavor on this is a little more daiquiri-ish, kind of distinctly more lime-ish than like a Sprite or 7-Up lemon lime traditional. I feel like this beverage has a niche that it fills. It is not entirely to my tastes, but I wanted to bring it into the show fairly early, even though it's not in a bottle here, because I think it demonstrates something important, which is this beverage. I reveal here that this is not a blind tasting at all. I've been actually consuming this for a couple of weeks, having overbought on initial contact, perhaps just a little bit. And one thing I've learned rather vociferously is Mr. Ice Bucket on this one is our friend. Just get a big chunk there. Yeah, go for it. So, let's pour a little over this and let it do the magic mixing. I find that this stuff, it really surprised me the first time I did this. Yeah. When you put that over some ice, don't leave it forever. It's not quite a race with the clock, but it is still going to water down too much if you just let it sit there. But that initial contact on this one, it really does. It makes this soda pop in ways that it doesn't on its own, especially coming right out of the can. That is actually most of what I've got to say about this one. I'm going to call this a win. Were it still an independently owned company, I'd be more enthusiastic about this. But nonetheless, even with it being part of the big monolith, I'm going to come down in favor of this one. I think it may have some use in bartending because it has a very strong resemblance to, well, pretty much real lime. So there might be some application there. This is one purpose that I kind of think of as a potential side thing for this show, is that bartenders might get some ideas about things to mix with. I don't drink alcohol myself, so it's not a concern for me. I'm just looking at the soda for its own sake. Nonetheless, Hansen's Key Lime Twist, I will recommend it for these purposes. It's pretty refreshing. I'm not going to by any means call it my favorite soda of all time. In fact, I may not purchase this again in the future, but I don't feel bad about it either. It is perfectly acceptable. It's just if you want a real lime drink, this kind of something that belongs in a whiskey tumbler, in a way. It is definitely not hard drink, but it resembles the flavors that are in a lot of traditional mixed drinks. Okay, I think I'm going to call it for this episode. Hansen's Key Lime Twist. It's pretty decent. Okay, as always, take care of your teeth, especially if you're throwing sugar and carbonation at them. All right, good night.